most of you are familiar with the K-16 collaborative, but we'll start with like a very brief overview of that, why we're here. And then I'll pass it on to my colleague Rachel from Wested to kind of go into where we left off with our last transfer community of practice. Following that, we have a whole team here from Long Beach City College. We're very excited to hear about the work they've done in transfer, the work that is currently happening based off of some of the challenges they experience, and really how they assess that, learn from it, and are growing their program from it. Following that, we're gonna break out into groups and take kind of the themes that they discuss and dig deeper into those. We'll talk about how that's happening on your campuses, how that's happening within your projects in the collaborative. Report out and have a discussion as a full group, and then we'll move into next steps. If the group does stay small, which is totally fine if it does, then we might change some things up a bit, collapse some groups, and have a broader conversation. But it should be a good one to really get that 2-year, 4-year connection regardless. So looking forward to that. Just a brief overview. Again, y'all are so familiar with the collaborative work, so I'm not going to go over much with you. I'm going to remind you the goal of our work that some of you who are in the room, in addition to other members of your campus communities, came up with, that we're really looking to close racial and gender gaps in post-secondary attainment and employment, specifically looking at healthcare, engineering, and computer science. We're doing that by really focusing on a few key strategies, including transfer. So if you look at our objectives, our strategies, we're focusing on enrollment, degree completion, and increasing the percentage of students who are employed in those fields of study for engineering, computer science, and healthcare. We're looking at expanding and enhancing dual enrollment, articulated transfer, and work-based learning opportunities. Those are what our community of practice series are based on. So here, as we talk about transfer opportunities between 2- and 4-year colleges, really looking at how we can strengthen those and take from one another and take from lessons learned to apply them to our own campuses. And of course, our other big strategy and goal that we've been working on, and which so many of you are a part of through Subregional Collaborative, developing and supporting regional and sub-regional collaboration and strengthen problem-solving capacity. Certainly something y'all are doing on a regular basis in your subregions, and something we get to do on a regional scale in activities like this. For that, I will pass it to Rachel, who led our first community practice on transfer, who can give us a quick recap of what we did there and the data that we used to really drive what we're doing in this community.
Thanks, Adam. When we met last, we reviewed a couple of resources, including this report by PPIC, and put that in the chat. This was some data that we looked at and started to talk about how folks were seeing this reflected in their, I'm not able to share, but I'll send it to you, Matt. How folks were seeing this kind of drop that was experienced across the system after the pandemic. So we discussed kind of what might be happening, and that led us into a conversation to review a report that the Chancellor's Office had just released about the barriers to transfer, and that makes the case for coordination and the need for closer coordination and systems approaches if we're ever going to see kind of an impact on, especially on the students that are low income or first gen. Thank you, Matt. And then we then had a breakout conversation about what those look like in various systems, and talk through how partnerships could support some of those challenges. And that leads us mostly to today. We also then started to think about some of our sub-regional projects that were going on, and had heard from Elijah on the success that happened at Long Beach. So that led us into brokering that conversation to see if we could understand more deeply and start a conversation today, learning about Long Beach's challenges and successes, and then kind of tee up deeper conversations and understanding about what's going on in other subregions. So that's where we live today.
Sorry, I muted and I started talking. Really just talking to myself here. I want to make sure there's plenty of time for the Long Beach crew to talk about the work they've done and some of the really exciting work happening on campus now and as a result of the work they've done and the strategies they've begun to implement. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to that team. I'm going to invite them to share screen, and so they can share their presentation. This is a really weird moment for me in that I know I'm sharing my screen and I can no longer find the button that says stop share. It's literally just disappeared from my screen. And I don't know what to do about that. I'm gonna ask Matt if you have any idea or if you can stop sharing my screen because you're a co-host.
I can't stop sharing it, but who can start? All participants can share.
Why don't you
So,
try to start one, Matt, and that will get me off, and then you can go
okay.
ahead and...
Oh, okay.
Sorry, just kicked you out.
There it
Oh,
is.
no, perfect. No,
Yay!
that is,
Hey.
I really appreciate the you doing that there, John. I have no idea what happened to my thing.
Go team. I know it gets kind of weird sometimes when you have to hover. It's weird. So wonderful. So we're in. And I'll pass it off to Elijah to get us started. Thank you for the introduction.
Well, hey folks, thank you so much for having us to present today. I'm Elijah Sims. I'm the director of the Long Beach College Promise. So in my capacity, I work for Long Beach Unified School District, Long Beach City College, Cal State Long Beach, and also the city of Long Beach. Today, we're going to be focused on efforts that have taken place in order to overcome some challenges at LBCC. So I'm super happy to bring together a few folks who are not just great at what they do, but in my opinion, they're some of the best at what they do. Um, we have our Dean of Counseling, Javier Villasenor, our transfer coordinator, our department. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say his name. Our transfer coordinator, Ruben Page, our department head of counseling and the lead of our completions efforts, Philip Huerta, and our brand new tenure track counselor, Joan Lee, who's also a wizard behind the keys who helped us with the presentation today. Finally, I just want to offer some gratitude and thanks for Unite LA for bringing us together and for West Ed for all the support leading to today. So with that, we'll transition into what you can expect to hear today. And I'm going to turn it over to our Dean of Counseling, Dr. Newly minted, Dr. Javier Villasenor.
Thank you. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you for the kind words. So thank you, everyone, for giving us the opportunity to present the work that we've been doing at Long Beach City College. A lot of it has been a lot of sweat and tears, a lot of hard work that's going behind it. But today, what we're going to be able to show everyone is just introduce the work that we've been doing, provide some of the challenges that we've had to continue on with the strategies that we've implemented. Some have worked tremendously, some have not. And also what are the outcomes that we have, and then we'll open it up for discussions. So with that said, I do want to thank my team as well, and I'll transition so you guys can see who our team is. So we have Dr. Elijah Sims, who's been supportive. He's been our conduit with all the institutions that are here today. Ruben Page, our institutional knowledge and transfer coordinator. Philip Huerta, and Joan Lee, who's been instrumental in the completion and second year experience. So with that said, I'll hand it over to our first presenter. And I believe that would be Ruben Page or Philip Huerta.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'll just briefly interject that we will be using Slido as a tool for interaction today. So we will have a word cloud later. So I just wanted to give everyone the opportunity to join this link. So I'll go ahead and put the link in our chat for us. If you'd rather join using your phone, you can feel free to scan the QR code on the screen as well. Perfect. And it's in our chat. Thank you. But yes, we have Philip next. Yay.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity. And today, I was going to introduce some of the challenges that Long Beach City College has faced in getting students to complete their awards, their degrees, their certificates, and transfer. So one thing that we think about is, if you build it, will they come, right? So this is obviously a reference to Field of Dreams, movie back in the 90s, where, the thought was that if something's built, that people and they will come and be ready and complete and do what they need to do and be good. So the if you build it, they will come mindset presumes that all students will take advantage of resources and navigate the system effectively on their own. The assumption itself has proven to be a fallacy, as we see gaps in engagement and success, especially for students who need more tailored interventions. So, with that, we wanted to kind of look at our data and ensure that as we build something, it's not just that we're building it, but we are intentionally deciding on what to do and how to do it, and leveraging that to provide the services to our students. So a couple things to really consider is, one is unit creep. So students without a clear attainable plan, an educational plan that's created by our counseling faculty, often end up taking unnecessary courses, right? So they take courses that might not be required for their degree, for their certificate to transfer, and end up making it very challenging for them to complete their educational goals. They also, without the educational plan, may go ahead and take courses that are too rigorous all at one time, too many units, and not having, again, that well-balanced workload. In doing so, this may lead them to not be meeting satisfactory academic standing, and taking too many units that are needed for their educational goal. So one of the things that we noticed through data is back in 2015, Long Beach City College was only had about a 15% of their student population that had a comprehensive educational plan. So wanted to really ensure that our counseling faculty and our students got the support to be able to create these and have that clear, attainable plan for our students. Fast forward to 2023, one of the things that we have noticed is that at this point, we have about a 70% of our students actually have a comprehensive ed plan. And some of the strategies and stuff will be kind of talked about later. Additionally, delays in completing certificates, associate degrees, and/or transferring to the university and attaining employment in the chosen field. So when students end up delaying and not completing, at LBCC, the median amount of time for students to complete and transfer is about 4 years. The added time frame, thinking about it, that, a lot of students come in thinking it's a 2-year college, right? We should be transferring, we should be finishing within 2 years, and transitioning and getting my 4-year degree. So that added time frame sometimes is frustrating for students, makes them lose motivation and feel like they, want to start their lives. And often, this often results in students dropping out completely, or stopping out, right, and returning later on once they're adults or later on in time. Other things with that unit creep and having too many units is losing financial aid eligibility. this may cause them to drop out because they don't have the finances, or to have to work significantly more so that they can cover the expenses of going to college. And in doing so, dropping down to part-time and extending their time with either LBCC or at the institution that they've been they transferred to. So at LBCC, just for reference, within the last 8 years, we had an average high of about 82 units for students to complete their educational objective. In 23-24, that has gone down to about 68.9, 69%. So it's about a 16% decrease. And again, we'll have an opportunity to have more conversations about that. The other is the lack of case management. So minimal individualized tracking and support for students is a challenge. Lack of wraparound intentional services to help inform and remind students of deadlines, resources, and next steps can be detrimental to our student population. Without the intentional support and case management, students may miss. One is enrolling in their courses during their priority registration timeline. What does that mean? So this may impact them having access to the days, the times, the modalities, and the courses needed to complete their awards and or transfer. Additionally, missing graduation application deadlines, which delay their degree of conferment. It may also impact their transfer if they are attaining an ADT for admission purposes at the university. It may also impact their ability to gain employment in their field of study, you know, and delay that. Next would be the completion milestones. So not completing transferable math and English within the first year significantly decreases the likelihood of student completing their educational goal and or transfer. For LBCC 2015, students were completing math and English. Only about 3% of all students completed math and English within their first academic year. In 2024, right now we're looking at about a 10%. So as we know, these are courses that are gateway courses in many instances for a degree and definitely required to transfer to the university. So it's important, and our institutional data has shown that those that complete their math and English within their first year are much more likely to transfer and to finish their goals. Missing transfer critical milestones such as ADT completion, supplemental application submission, standardized testing such as T's for admission, missing official transcripts, submission of transcripts, deadlines, not completing their intent to enroll. So those are other areas that it may impact by not having some of those different critical milestones. So equity versus equality in counseling. So having a one-size-fits-all mentality and not effectively supporting individualized needs is a concern. Not having a tiered approach and providing same services for all students. So not every student has the same needs, and some need services sooner or may lose them, or we may lose them, right? Or they may be, they may be gone and not here with us. Not being aware of an institutional data and serving our most disproportionately impacted students population the rest of our student leads to increasing equity gaps and having these students drop out or stop out. Not administering a needs assessment to help address student needs is another pain point. We miss meeting students where they're at and providing timely support and services. Again, this leads to potentially students dropping out or stopping out or just not being in good academic standing. not being accessible when students needs to meet with the counselor, and mainly or solely focusing on an in-person delivery of services. So as an example, prior to the pandemic, our LBCC counseling services were at least like 95% in person. And this practice worked for some, but others without childcare, transportation, with time constraints, or simply preferred an alternative mode of service, had limited to no alternative for counseling support. So it also provided some potential gaps. Lastly, the first to second year, insufficient structured support for students transitioning beyond their first year. We often have robust support for students as they begin their academic journey. As an example, we often have courses to help students start their academic journey, such as Orientation to College Success, right, which is a class that many of us offer, and stress the importance of taking such a course, and in some instances may even require the completion of such a course. How much do we stress a second year and or a completion type course? Just as that, what does your institution offer such a course? Some institutions may not even offer a course that provides that support as they're finishing and completing. We often identify needed steps, processes, and items a student must complete and attempt to inform them of such deadlines. But how do we ensure that they indeed are taking the proper steps, completing the items within the allotted time frame, and completing the steps correctly? So missing these structured support for our second and beyond students leads to increasing gaps in persistence and success for our students.
Thank you so much for that. So now that we have more context about some of the key challenges that were faced in the past, we'd like to pose this question to the team and to the group. And the question is this: what are some key strategies that you would use to address these challenges? Or maybe that you currently use? So I'll go ahead and add the link into our chat. So what are some key strategies that you would use to address some of these challenges? And we'll give folks a couple minutes here. And it's really cool that we're in the space as a collaborative space to hear feedback from different partners, right? Not just the community colleges, but the Cal States as well, UCs, and other campuses. Wow, amazing. This is a great group. Okay. So here's some things that we're seeing on the screen. So early advising on transfer programs. First and second, I'm seeing proactive support, specialized articulations, collaborative projects with university partners. Excellent. Yes. Career goals. Yes, really creating that structure. And one thing I want you all to know is that we will have breakout rooms in a bit too, where we can further discuss these and really dive into some of these thoughts. So thank you all for participating and really getting the thoughts flowing. So now that we understand the challenges faced at Long Beach City College, let's dive into the strategies that we utilize to address those challenges. And at the very end, we'll go over outcomes. So if we go into strategies, we first have to understand the structure of what our completions programs are, our completions counseling spectrum is at Long Beach City College. And completions, it can't really just be defined by one area, right? There are a lot of different types of students that we must be able to connect with and cater to. So on this web here, you'll see a few things stemming from the LBCC completion spectrum. So first thing on the left that you'll see is our typical completions program. Now, what we define as our completion support in this area are our students who have 30 or more units completed at Long Beach City College. This means that students are typically halfway through their transfer and completion requirements. For example, if they want to transfer to Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Dominguez Hills, et cetera, right? And below that, we have our first year and second year experience programs. So these are dedicated programs to support our direct matriculants through our first year experience program. But what happens after the first year? That's where the second year experience comes into play, where students who have completed at least 12 units in their fall and spring, so 24 units total in their first year, that can be eligible for the second year experience program, where they really get that high touch, intrusive and structured support to get them through to that finish line and ensuring that they're taking only the units that they need to avoid unit creep and more. We also have our re-engagement area, and this is really a focus on bringing students back. And this was a really big push, especially after the pandemic, to ensure that students who left Long Beach City College have the support to come back. And what that looked like were grants and also technology support as well, so increasing that access. We also do have our career technical education area for our career technical majors. We also have community advancing student achievement, which is really focused on blending the basic needs support, mental health support, academic and transfer support specifically for our low income and Latinx students. We also have the Success and Completion Action Network, also known as SCAN, and our Post-Secondary Achievement and Success Opportunity, also known as PASO. We really like our acronyms here, but those two are really focused on addressing support for our indirect matriculants, right? Because we have such a great first year experience support, what about our indirect matriculants, right? So that's where that comes into play. And then we also have our new adult education branch of LBCC completions, which is really focused on helping students transition from non-credit courses to credit courses. Now, this spectrum is always growing and changing, so this may look different a year from now, right? But this is at least a snapshot of, at least at this time, the types of services and support that we provide through LBCC completions. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper and look at the actual strategies implemented by these different branches. So on this next slide, we have some of our completion strategies. So we do offer counseling appointments and drop-in services for our students. These are hour-long appointments. We also do partner with our transfer center to host graduation check-in application labs. These are one-stop shop labs where students can meet with a counselor and confirm that they're meeting those graduation and transfer requirements. They can meet with a success coach to apply for that award on the spot. And they can also meet with a transfer specialist for assistance with that application. So it's really a holistic support where you don't have to try to dig around, figure out who to turn to. You can just go to one of these collaborative events and get that support. Our registration labs are quite similar in that holistic support where you're not just coming to see a counselor, you're also getting support to register on the spot, right? We also do very intrusive, very proactive case management. The platform that we use is Starfish. So Starfish allows us to filter students by certain attributes. So maybe I want to filter students of a certain demographic or who are below a certain GPA, or maybe students who haven't seen a counselor in the past year, right? I can add these filters and I can reach out to these students. A big one that we do here in completions is we focus on all students who are maybe denied for graduation, right? And we provide that high touch support to ensure that they can enroll into the courses needed to succeed and reach their goals. Some other items that we do include is we do have a Canvas shell. We do have a student success course. We provide registration support, like I mentioned, and we also have learning communities. But here we will dive into some of our amazing transfer support services.
No, I forgot how to unmute. Hi, everybody. My name is Ruben. I'm going to go over transfer center main services. Some of you who are former transfer coordinators or directors already know most of these services, but I'll give you a quick snapshot of what we have in our current transfer center. In terms of coordination, we do the typical coordination of anything that gets students to four-year campuses. So we have application assistance. We had a session today. We'll have another one online tomorrow for our students. Anecdotally, our online application assistance gets a lot more business than our in-person application assistance right now. We also coordinate university tours. On October 25th, we're heading to UC Irvine, for example. And in the spring, we'll be hitting 5 universities for our Mega Northern California tour, which through equity funds is actually free for the students who are chosen to go on that tour. We coordinate our transfer fairs. This one here at Long Beach City College at our liberal arts campus will be on October 29th. And we organize and coordinate all the university appointments, all their specialty workshops, their student panels, professional panels, and speakers. We're also close partners and share a space in one of our campuses here at the Liberal Arts Campus with the Career Center. So we are in close contact with those folks that help our students who don't have majors. And as most of us know, you have to have a major most of the time to transfer to a university. So we help them with booking their counseling appointments, assessment appointments, and also helping students register for our numerous career workshops. Something that's a little bit different than I think most, if not all, transfer centers is that we also handle transcript evaluations. We have paraprofessionals here, classified staff, I mean, who are called counseling and transfer specialists who handle all incoming transcript evaluations, which is really huge for educational planning to make sure our counselors have access to courses that students have taken at other colleges and universities and how they may be able to fit into the educational plan. In the 23-24 school year, we evaluated close to 4,500 transcripts from other colleges and universities. In terms of transcript evaluation, we also have something called program directed transcript evaluations. I'll give you an example for our nursing program. Students do not need to get a transcript evaluated to apply to that program, but after they are admitted, the nursing program contacts us with those students, and we make sure if those students have transcripts from any other colleges or universities, that those transcripts are evaluated. And I think one of the most important things for the Transfer Center is marketing and educating students on transfer. We currently have a Canvas page with approximately 3,000 students in it, which is probably our main source of marketing to students. If I put something on our Canvas page, usually that event is going to fill up for us. Another way we can reach out to students is through the UC Transfer Admission Planner. Currently, there's 369 students on the planner right now, and you can see some breakdowns for our Hispanic and Latino students, Latinx students, and our African-American students who are using the transfer admission planner. And now, actually, I forgot to put on here the Cal State planner, which will soon be another force to educate and reach out to those students. We also do something called ADT case management. We always get a list of our students who apply to the Cal States every term, who indicate on their application that they are receiving or plan to receive an associate's degree for transfer. And we are able to contact those students to make sure they apply, they get help with applying for graduation, and also answer any of their questions about the transition to the universities. And our probably number one education tool in terms of workshops is our transfer boot camps, which draws about 1,000 students per academic year. Thanks. Go to the next one. Here are some of our recent partnerships with different universities. We have a really strong, robust partnership with UCLA Center for Community College Partnerships and UC Irvine's CCP program. They are doing everything from, we probably are going to take 4 UC Irvine tours in one semester.
They are bringing staff over to our campus to help students with their applications. With UCLA, the Center for Community College Partnerships, for example, right next door right now is their coordinator, and he is reviewing the students' personal insight questions. We have what's called ASU Local at LBCC. There is an ASU Local in downtown LA, but we were able to draw into a partnership with them where they're actually on campus. Students who are admitted to that fully online program can actually get services on our campus. Their staff are actually here in one of our buildings, and their coaches also do programming here on our campus after the students get into that program. And we were talking about specialized articulation. Here are two great examples for some of that specialized articulation. One with Cal Poly Pomona and their urban planning major, and Charles Drew University with their bachelor's in sciences in biomedical science, public health, and psychology. So drawing upon that stronger articulation agreement. We also have something new. I've always had a transfer advisory group, my local on-campus partners to plan transfer activities, but we're going to be starting what's called a transfer equity advisory group with all our learning communities and specialized programs to see what those students require that we may be overlooking. So can we go to the next slide, please? I'm going to go over a little bit of data right now, and we could dive into it maybe a little bit more in the breakout rooms. Good. Thank you. So some key outcomes is one, we're going to show you some data on completions and transfers in a second. Philip already mentioned this, we reduced the average units students are taking, and students, you'll see in the very next slide, are really grabbing onto our associate's degrees for transfer in terms of that degree completion. We already talked about, or Joan already talked about, this collaboration, stronger collaboration with first-year experience and second-year experience. So that once again is those students coming from our first year who complete 24 units have a handoff to a second-year experience program to make sure they continue on with their success. And here's a couple of snippets of some program success outcomes. Our Umoja program experienced a 219% increase in total awards from 2023 to 23-24. In 23-24, 18 of our MANA students completed 43 total awards. And of degree students, degree-seeking students in Puente, who started in 23-24, 81% of them completed transfer level English in their first year. Thank you. Next slide, please. And here's some of that data that we were just talking about in terms of completions. As you can see there, our average number of units is definitely going down from a couple of years ago, from 75.7 units now down to 68.9. We're really trying to work on lowering that even further to prevent that unit creep. And once again, looking at ADT efficiency, you can see how our numbers have grown for our ADTs. And I'm going to give you a snapshot in the next slide that digs a little bit deeper into that explosive growth for our degrees. And here it is. As you can see, back in 2015-16, most of our degrees granted were non-ADTs. And then it took hold after SB 1440, and it flip-flopped. Now you can see in blue, our numbers of associate's degrees for transfers outnumber our local AA and AS degrees, as those students who concentrate on transfer can now get degrees. And I think that's my last slide. I will mention this one point that Philip mentioned earlier about milestones. I like throwing out this statistic that shows that of African-American and Black students who complete transfer level math and transfer level English within their first year, there's about a 310% increase in their chances of being able to transfer. So I'll finish off with that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Ruben. And in the next slide, I'll go into a little bit more of the data about our FYE to SYE continuity. So one thing to note is that our second year experience program is very new. It was just launched in 2023, but early indicators do look positive. So it does show that students who participate in both FYE and SYE programs demonstrate higher retention rates and faster degree completions compared to those who do not. So it really shows that case management, that high touch support really makes a difference. Those campus collaborations and more. So it's certainly a strategy that will continue to apply as time goes on. So thank you all so much for your time. On this slide, I do have our emails, and I can go ahead and add that to our chat as well. So if you ever have any questions, you can definitely reach out to any of us for support or collaborations.
Thank you, John and Ruben and the whole team. Philip, I learned a lot, and frankly, something that we always see that there are issues with are how do we make sure that students are continuing on through the community college pathway before they get to the 4-year pathway. So I love the fact that the second year program is seeing results, and that is something probably replicable, excuse me, across the field. So I want to, before we break out, and then there's just enough of us to chat as a full group instead of going to breakout rooms. I do want to open up for questions for the Long Beach team first, in case anyone has questions, comments, thoughts on some of the tactics, some of the outcomes, and where their successes or challenges have been.
May I ask you a question here, Adam?
Please.
Yeah, my question is, I see that you're doing a great job, by the way, the process. I think a lot of schools are doing something similar, but it's great that it's under one umbrella. Are you also in contact with the departments to see what they're doing at their level, so you can actually make sure that you unify everything? Because there are, for myself, I'm working with the Long Beach City College, I'm working with the computer science department, I have some articulation, but I didn't see anything happening there. And I don't know if you know about that. I mean, I'm in the other region, but it's a feeder, so I work with all of those. I was wondering, are you connecting with the departments in STEM to see if there is some, collaboration with some schools that you could actually put into your umbrella and give it the support that they need?
I can start with some examples from what I gave with transfer and the slides. In those new partnerships with Charles Drew and those Bachelor's of Science degrees, and also with our new partnerships with Cal Poly Pomona and urban planning. Actually, it was a faculty that spearheaded those partnerships. So we created those MOUs with the partnerships with those universities and student services, but more importantly, faculty, because some of those articulations couldn't happen unless some changes were brought through curriculum. Luckily, several of us at least I sit in curriculum. Javier, our Dean Villaseñor, also sits in curriculum. So it was fairly easy for us to bring to the group. There's also a group of counselors not in this Zoom room who are also on curriculum. And we definitely see the value of that, especially in terms of these specialized partnerships we have with the university. So I'll start with that.
So you have the list of all those articulations, so you can actually, because you're doing the year 1 and year 2 connection with the students, do you have those? You can share it with the students at one level to make sure that they are, because one of the things that you do is just to avoid unnecessary courses to be taken by students, right? So do you have all this articulation already exists to bring it? I mean, I know your counselors know about the program that we have with you guys, but I was wondering if you guys know in the program that how you bring it to the student to see all these options, so you can make at the early stages which way they want to go and what are the roadmaps that they have. Because I see the articulation, but do they have roadmaps within the articulation to see where they need to go to avoid extra courses? That was one of your points that you had in your diagram, I believe.
And I think he left. Philip, did you want to talk about our roadmaps that we create?
Yeah, so we do have roadmaps that are created on a yearly basis in collaboration with our teaching faculty, where we discuss and come up with specific timeframes, recommendations in terms of the GE courses. We look at some of the transfer agreements with our local high feeder schools to ensure that we are meeting the best course of action. And then obviously we continue to go on assist and look at you know, the websites within your you know, your campuses to ensure that we are following that as well. So yes, we do have quite a few different ones, and we try to, and we update them on a yearly basis. And that's already in our High Point degree planners or educational plan. So every time that we run the plan, it actually does a full degree audit, including any classes that have been completed at other campuses that the transfer center specialists review and ensure that we're getting the credit for that for the students.
You guys, I was just going to add in the work that we've been doing with LBCC. I'm Colleen Maldonado with Cal State Long Beach, and over the past 3 years, we've created 22 program maps between Cal State Long Beach and LBCC for their ADT degrees. And so those transfer roadmaps help really make it clear if a student wants to go from LBCC to Cal State Long Beach in a specific degree area. So it's been really great collaboration between our faculty. Those are all faculty to faculty meetings happening. And it really allows them to get really in depth into their curriculum, the courses, success milestones, and steps that students need to take, and then create a graphic sample roadmap for them to follow if they choose. So that's been great faculty to faculty collaboration happening over the last 3 years.
Maybe follow-up question for you, Colleen, and the relationship with LBCC and CSULB. I know that when Ruben, you spoke to some of the new partnerships, obviously LBC or CSULB is a long-standing relationship. Are there any strategies you're doing differently between some of your newer partners and their different programs versus what you're doing with your long-standing partners like the beach?
Is that question for me or for Ruben?
All of the above.
Well, I know that obviously we have the Long Beach College Promise, and that has been going on since 2008. So it's a very integrated part of the way that institutions in Long Beach for Long Beach Unified and LBCC and Cal State Long Beach work together. We've had a lot being done around transfer over the last few years, and I'm sure Ruben can talk about some of what we called our Promise 2.0 efforts, and we're continuing those monthly meetings for our transfer success team between Cal State Long Beach and LBCC. We have the faculty to faculty collaboration happening with Program Mapper. We're working on 7 different programs right now in majors that are currently meeting to discuss their curriculum. So there's a lot happening between Cal State Long Beach and LBCC, and a lot of that is just built out of our Long Beach College Promise and just all of the efforts that have happened over the years with that. And Ruben, if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, it's sort of something not sort of, but something I had mentioned before in some of our new partnerships lines with UC Irvine and UCLA. We are really, and it's quite apropos for this presentation, concentrating our partnerships on interventions involving milestones. So As many of you know, once students hit these transferable unit milestones of like 15 transferable units within their first year, or 30 transferable units within their second year, 45 transferable units, 60 transferable units. There was an RP study called Through the Gate, and also recently for our African American students revolving, this was called the Transfer Tipping Point for Black and African American students, which really concentrated in part on those milestones. So getting back to what I was talking about is that, for example, with UC Irvine, one milestone we looked at was one, who is at the gate now, and in November we're going to bus about 50 of our students over there to complete their applications at UC Irvine, regardless of what university they want to go to. Another milestone we had was the UC Transfer Admission Guarantee session or conference we had at UC Irvine, which concentrated on those students who reached 30 transferable units and may be eligible for a UC Transfer Admission Guarantee. So we're being really intentional in terms of, we've always had interventions and partnerships involving different strategies at different universities, but being very intentional on the students that we're targeting and bringing to those interventions, and also those milestones and how we can maybe introduce themes involving those milestones.
Yeah, Adam, I was just gonna add, related to your question about strategies across the institutions and the partnerships. I think one of the things that is critical for us to be able to try to tackle any cross-institutional problems is just layers and layers of communication. So there's the CEOs who are having meetings that are focused on the promise. Next week, the chiefs are having a meeting. So that's the chiefs of staff who serve the presidents are having a meeting. And then for the college promise, there's a steering committee that has a meeting. And then that committee has subgroups. There's a data group. There's a counseling advising group. And, like this goes on and on. There are all these instances where from the top all the way down to the folks who are implementing the work, there are these cross-institutional meetings for us to be able to discuss opportunities and challenges, and also share some successes. On Friday, Long Beach Unified School District is hosting an event, and they're gonna offer some awards. And one of the things that they're gonna do at that event is they're gonna honor some of the partners in the College Promise. So I think there's layers of communication and support and celebration and airing your challenges openly so you can overcome them. And all those are kind of instrumental. I don't know if that necessarily relates to it being a young partnership or an old one. I think it's just a part of a successful partnership.
Thank you, Elijah, for sharing that. I think that really speaks to how much of this is change management as well, and organizational culture change that happens through systems and structural change, but also through those layers of conversation. So, okay. Well, thank you all so much for engaging, for the Long Beach City College team for sharing, and for all of these questions. We love to use our last few minutes together to have the opportunity to hear from more voices and capture a few more voices around these challenges and other strategies that are being used. I think we've already heard a lot around mapping and other work that's going on. So I think we'll just take a few minutes to try and capture anything that hasn't been shared yet. And this is something that we'll continue kind of building from as we continue communities to practice in the future. So I'm going to share what's called a collaborative workspace, and I'm going to invite you to access that all. Okay. And you will see our first round of introductions here, and I just took the liberty of copying the introductions that were in the chat. If you all, minus the fun fall items that folks are looking forward to. So if I missed you though, please do add your name here. And then what this is just a Google document for us to capture sort of thoughts and reactions to a series of questions. And so what we've done is we've added the 5 challenges that Long Beach City College has tackled and spoke to today. And we'd love to hear sort of how this is showing up in your context for each of you. If there's any other strategies that haven't yet been mentioned to address these challenges that could be added. And then in particular, recognizing we heard from that community college perspective at first and really appreciate the CSU partner speaking up today. But really kind of what support can 4 years offer to address these challenges? And I think we saw a few of those suggestions also in the initial Slido engagement, but would love to hear kind of what that intersegmental work can look like. So what this is, and you can see and jump right in, we have these little dots to just make sure that you can type without necessarily writing over someone else's comment. So if you have anything to add, awesome. Anonymous Narwhal, avoiding super seniors, that's great. You can add that and type that in as you go. And then you can also, if this table isn't fitting on your screen entirely, there is typically a little scroll bar at the bottom. Let me see if I can get that to show up so that you can scroll through the table more. So I think we can give folks a few minutes to type. You're already jumping in, absolutely wonderful. And then we'll close with sort of any closing comments. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen since it looks like folks are in here. If anyone is having trouble accessing the document, please let us know. And we are here to make sure that you can get access. But I'm seeing already some great examples of how these challenges, well, not great, but very real challenges and examples about how these challenges show up in context. So, yep, warning letters. Oh my goodness. Policies that limit a non-major related course selection. Oh, great. So we're moving that over to strategies, which is excellent. Super seniors. There's the ADT program mapper meetings, help university faculty to stay within the 4-year time frame and eliminate extra classes that departments may be requiring. I think it's great to sort of have those structures that can help really guide some level of prioritization that can help students. Oh, very interesting notes around AP exams and credit that students are then re-earning. Credit for prior learning, such a topic in the state right now, and so much work to be done. IGETC focused dual enrollment. Well, that's certainly very interesting. Maybe I'll pause. Does anyone want to speak to the work that's happening around IGETC focused dual enrollment?
So I wrote that, and Colleen can add in here, but there's layers, right? So one of the layers is that we're encouraging in alignment with the governor's roadmap for success as students to take dual enrollment classes. That also aligns with the community college chancellor's office. It's also a priority of Long Beach Unified School District's superintendent as an alternative to APs. And then with Golden State Pathways being an important part of the layers, dual enrollment can be offered during the day. The bell schedule for students can plan is to offer that dual enrollment in alignment with the pathways that students are in at the high school level. And so because we suspect that not all students are in pathways that directly relate to the majors that they will select in college, we have to think about how the dual enrollment classes that we offer during the school day in alignment with Golden State Pathways also help to propel a student towards graduation rather than become an example of unit creep that can actually slow them from earning their award. And so one strategy, it's not the end all be all, it's only one strategy, is to figure out if there's a way to find dual enrollment courses that are also on the IGETC pattern, because those classes might have some of the greatest portability. I think there are some even more intentional things that you can do when you're having a lot of conversations across partnerships. But as a shortcut to at least try and mitigate harm, that's one strategy that we're looking at.
Elijah, I have a follow-up to that. Like how are you finding the overlap between IGETC and pathway specific courses? Because I was kind of thinking of IGETC courses as being like kind of random acts of dual enrollment, like not very aligned to a career pathway. But are you finding that you can identify courses that meet both, that like meet IGETC, but then also are like meeting a computer science pathway or a health pathway?
Yeah. So the way we do it is in those conversations. So LBCC and LBUSD has a series of meetings where they're focused on an industry sector that informs what the pathway is, and then talk about what courses that pathways teachers are requesting, and then we'll look at whether or not those classes have portability or not, especially if a student were to change their major. And then we'll also look at, for example, the major specific requirements that align to that pathway. And sometimes the GE in question that's on IGETC might fulfill a major specific requirement, and it's something like psychology or sociology, and it's not traditionally a class that you would think aligns specifically to that pathway, but is required for the major. So a class like psychology would fulfill that IGETC requirement. It would potentially be aligned with that pathway insofar as that pathway ties to a major, and that major has major specific requirements for entry. But it might not be a computer tech class. It might be another class outside of the computer tech department that computer tech requires to enter the pathway. So it's a little bit of a complicated dance where we really have to look at a multitude of factors. What does the instructor want? What is required to enter that major at the university? What classes are on IGETC? And then we go as specific as looking at course success for those classes. Because it could be that the class that an instructor or a teacher is asking for at Unified, when we look at course success for that class, might not actually set us up for a success for that student if it was an early dual enrollment opportunity. So we have to spend hours in a series of meetings figuring out what those classes should be.
Wow, sounds very complicated. I would love to see when you have a specific example, Elijah, maybe to share with in our Golden State Pathways kind of community to uplift as like, here's something you should be thinking about as you're building out your dual enrollment courses. Just the idea that dual enrollment could lead to unit creep in transfer is something like an unintended consequence that I hadn't really thought about.
And I will say this is something that Cal State Long Beach is looking at a lot right now because we are seeing an increased number of students coming in with 30 or more, 60 or more. I think the top we saw was in our engineering program where a student had 90 units of dual enrollment. They're hitting up against university policies. They're coming in as first-time freshmen, but they're really not first-time freshmen. They're almost like a transfer student, but they're still being held to first-time freshman policies that are kind of having unintended consequences for them. We're real concerned about students that come in with random dual enrollment. Just this thought that the more units I accumulate, the better. It is not necessarily true. They have to be very strategic. So those kind of alignment meetings around dual enrollment that Elijah mentioned, having the CSU or your university partner be part of those conversations to make sure that the courses that are getting selected are going to benefit students are coming straight to the university. And not create unintended consequences. Like, for instance, they've taken 60 units, but they didn't take the core sequence of classes. Now they're not eligible for upper division courses. They have to wait over a year to take those sequenced courses that they need. And yet they don't have a lot of general ed to take. And just, so it's not just that the more dual enrollment, the better. It's not the more units, the better, right? There's really has to be strategic and having like those conversations. So sorry, but it's something that I've been talking about a lot at the university right now.
Very interesting, very important. Thank you for sharing. I have to call out, Anonymous Panda had some incredible comments that all got deleted. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to participate in that portion.
please, please. I feel like there's even more details than in the presentation. So yes, please.
Okay.
I guess now you're a known panda.
Oh no. I have
Anonymous
returned the
no more.
notes.
Yeah.
So they're back.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions about any of the comments that they're seeing their colleagues include in here? Anything you all want to know more about?
Hi, it's not a question. It's I'm representing the College of Health, Human Services and Nursing here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. The college, we're fairly early in. We have right now 6 undergraduate programs, and only 2 have ADTs, and very few have articulation agreements out there, which is we're really putting a push on our departments to do so. Right now, what we're doing is creating the roadmaps to be able to share out. So this is fascinating for me as for the our intention for the college to really move forward with these type of agreements. I really appreciate the presentation, and I download everything I can, and I'll be reaching out to people to learn more about this. So yeah, I think I'll just to note that our departments are pretty early in this, but we're really moving forward with all intention. One thing that we will be doing is we did it last year. It was a little bit smaller. We had what was called a community college counselor convening meeting, which we just invited everybody that we could get a hold of, community colleges, their counselors, to come out and meet our advisors and to really sit down and sort of hash out what it is that each partner would need to move forward. And we're doing this again this October. I'll put this in the chat. I'm not sure if we've sent this out already to Long Beach City. I know I just saw a list where we had a contact, but it doesn't seem like nobody's here. But from what we were hoping to invite. But again, yeah, just this is very encouraging. And okay, I just dropped the invitation there in the chat. And yeah, we're our college. not the university, but the college is very early in this, but we're really wanting to move forward with this type of effort.
Thank you for sharing and yeah, for noting. It's really great to hear. And I think making connections is such a big part of the goal of these sessions. So
Yeah.
Excellent. Seems like a pretty, oh yeah.
I would
Go
just
ahead.
like to hear the strategy under first to second year around building transfer support networks with mentors to prepare students as like something that a 4-year college could offer.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that, like if you could say more about what that looks like. Was that Joanne? Was that Joan?
Yes, that was the panda. Thank you for bringing that to light. I think it would be really great to partner a lot of our second year experienced students with students who have already transferred to our partner universities to really learn about that process and walk through it, because it is really a stressful process. And students are not only stressing at the time of application, it's also as you're waiting for those responses and you're submitting your updates, and just having someone who can walk you through that process, who can tell you their experiences. And when you transfer to the campus, can be a friend there as well. I think that would be a beautiful opportunity to increase persistence for our students as well.
But you're not currently doing that?
So I think through some of our special programs, we do have some partnerships. For example, let's see. I know we had a mentorship program through the MANA program last year, and it was like a mixture of folks from different campuses. But I think really expanding that to more so across our areas would be really great.
So Elijah, maybe something to look at through the K-16 collaborative, because that's why we have this partnership in place and there is funding available. If that's something that could be like piloted with some of the pathways that you're trying to articulate through K-16.
I know we're coming close to the end, so is there anything else anyone wants to uplift or questions you want to ask? All right, I'm gonna do two things. One piece of thought for future meetings, and then one piece of housekeeping. One of the conversations we had earlier today was regarding, this was a Zoom poll, and I don't feel the need to do a Zoom poll because it's a small group. But one of the pieces we were thinking is, what other content experts would be interesting for you all on campuses, and for your colleagues that you might want to bring to these conversations to sit and learn about transfer, either on a campus or in a macro sense. I'm thinking there's been a lot of work in the policy world in the last few years that have been impacting how transfer is done on campuses, how funding is allocated to it, how people are allocated to transfer processes. There's been a fair amount of work in both the community college chancellor's office systems and the CSU chancellor's office system around broader transfer pathways in the and which will go down to campuses and so on. And of course, there's a wealth of transfer related data to really dive into. So if anyone's willing, are there any specific topics that might be of interest for you and your colleagues to really hear about what's happening maybe in the role of transfer as like updates or just information sharing from outside of the K-16 collaborative?
I think one of the things that I have a hard time to connect with the community college representatives, especially from my department. I send them the roadmap. I create them a roadmap for them, exactly what they need. So you can actually send it to the articulation officer and send it out. I don't get any response from them. So I don't know who, I mean, you guys from the Long Beach can tell me who should I connect to, because maybe when you do a cold call, they might not think that, they might think they have a hidden agenda, but it's actually a collaboration. Just want to see how we can actually make it clear. I used to attend the advisory council meetings and then meet with them, and that was the connection back there. But I was trying to see if there's a shortcut here to avoid that, because it's just becoming, I used to have less program could do that, but now I can't do that anymore. But I want to continue with this to update those roadmaps because students come and they're not taking course in the right sequence. So even though I have a roadmap, I have to update it, and it needs to be collaborated with them. So I'm just wondering what the path, I mean, from Long Beach would be the easiest way to connect to them. I just send it to few faculty and the chairs, but one response and I follow up, it just dies. What route should I do? I know I can go and do advisory council, but that requires a little bit more time, and his advisory council meetings are different time of year. Anyways, just if you have some insight, that would help me to reach out to others.
Yeah, I'll invite any of our Long Beach folks to think through that. And also, I mean, just thinking of if that's a common issue you're having, if that's a common issue colleagues are having, especially on the academic side, maybe it is something we can explore. We can have a panel of campuses that are actively working together and can support that.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, and it needs to be program specific because
Yeah.
we need to. I mean, you need to have a special meeting with those only. I don't want to take time from other. I mean, the health science might need to do with the health science connections, computer science engineering with them. So this way, we actually do more focus on what need and not to board the others. Anyways, I think that would be good if you guys can make that connection to introduce themselves to see what they need, what are we doing, what's the purpose. I guess then I think it would be much easier to follow.
Yeah, I know it's a concern we've had from a few campuses, especially on the program level, especially understanding the kind of intricacies of each academic program and the role they play, which outside of maybe a transfer center or such. So I like that a lot, actually.
I think counselor conferences are a big part of that discussion too, right? Like sometimes universities, for example, CSU will be host a counselor conference, but then they will feature departments that have breakouts specifically for groups of counselors to hear some of the things that you're saying, and that starts to spur some dialogue that translates to curriculum discussions and articulation discussions and mapper discussions. So sometimes if folks don't really understand, or if the right folks don't really understand that there's an issue that is not helping us to reach completion in a timely way, then you don't get a lot of traction. So I don't know if you already have counselor conferences that you all host, but that might be kind of some fertile ground.
Some schools that I work like part of the our collaborative team, like Cerritos, I work with them, and it just take 2 sessions, and we coordinate. We send it to the articulation offset. They send to us, and we approve it. So it's all done. It's not like a long-term process. I already know what courses they already know what programs we have. We just need like a 2-3 sessions to exchange the courses that are available, create a roadmap, so you can tell their students this is a roadmap if you want to go to such and such program, such and such school. And the student can decide what courses they can take at community college, what courses they can take there to graduate. It's just a connection to find commitment. So I did with the Cerritos work. I worked with the, I think with the Compton, they did also work with them also. I'm working with the West LA, but Long Beach, I have something, I got the connection. But few other campuses, I send them the whole thing. I create the whole roadmap. I even went through their curriculum, through catalog, got all the courses. They just need to look at it and then tell me if, go over there to do a discussion to make sure it's all reviewed. I didn't get the follow-up. So that's, and it's great that you have that team here because that team can do, like, actually push things. I mean, you guys, that's the whole mission, what you're doing here, right? Anyways.
All right, I know that's something Alex Davis has talked about mapping programs in your specific subregion too. But I mean, if we can take from that and take from initial map and then actually build in the connectivity with folks as a second piece of that, love to do that. So I know Rachel's already putting some notes down there for me. So we'll look into that certainly. So I think that'd be a phenomenal idea for what we need to do. Very briefly before we close, I'm looking at you specifically, Enrique, but I just want to share that we have our very first LAEDC, LA K-16 collaborative advisory or workforce advisory. So we're specifically looking at the healthcare careers in the region. So it's a virtual meeting from 10 to 2, or excuse me, 10 to 12 on October 30th. And I'll put the link to register in the chat for y'all. But this is gonna be an opportunity that we're bringing in healthcare employers. So we're thinking hospital systems, insurance systems, others that are actively recruiting, hiring, upskilling employees in kind of the healthcare field. It's an opportunity to do a roundtable discussions with them and education institutions that are working on those ed pathways into those careers, and an opportunity to look at some of the labor market data that is really driving these employers in the region. So we're super excited to have this conversation on October 30th. We invite you to share it with your colleagues working on in the HHS college and throughout the system. This will be our first. We're going to have one for computer science engineering following this. So we're going to make sure to hit all of our areas, but this will be the first one we have our great employer roundtable with. So with that, and you should have already heard that from your sub-regional convener, but if not, we'll make sure that more information gets out about it soon. So with that, we're at time. Don't want to hold anyone too late. Thank you all for joining us for the duration of this. We know it's a small but mighty group. I think there's a lot that came out of this actually. Special thank you again to our Long Beach crew for talking about the work that they've been doing and for the phenomenal presentation they gave. The presentation's in the chat. We'll make sure to send it out to everyone, and we'll send out some resources following this. So thank you all.